Good afternoon, everybody. Sabotage from DPS HQ. Nice to see you all. You've been asking about a pulverized build, so let's get into a pulverized build, my werebear friends. Usual sort of gameplay, usual thing we're going to do. We're going to run into a nightmare dungeon. I'm really sorry, 97's best I've got. I know you guys want to see hundreds, but I've run out of sigil powder. Again, it sucks, but it is what it is. So while we load into this, guys, thank you very much for coming on board and watching this. If you like the videos, if you can please comment, like, subscribe, and do all the above to help us out and, you know, get us up there with the YouTube algorithm and do all the fancy schmancy stuff, that would be really much appreciated. With no further ado, let us go and run a little Pulverise Druid. She's squishy, but she's doable. You just got to be aware that we've built this as an everyday build. It's not really made to be pushing these sorts of high-end stuff. It can do it. This is even a drifting shade, which is a pain in the butt, but you got to notice a couple of things when you build a pulverized build with a druid. One is you are going to have some sort of issues with spirit, and we are mitigating that in a number of different ways. And two, you are either usually going to be asked to pick between doing massive overpower hits and doing some critical strike hits. I've tried to build into both here. You can see we've got some poison coming out. We're surviving that. We are a little bit squishier than what you will normally see on most of our builds, but this is why we've got a whole bunch of survivability built into this, and why we've got a whole bunch of stuff to help us survive. So, can you do Nightmare 100s? Yes, of course you can. That's the whole point of all the builds when we put them together. That's one of the big things that we say every time we put a build together is if it can do Nightmare 100s, then it's a good build. If it can't do Nightmare 100s, well, I mean, use it for a bit of fun, but it's probably not that crash shot, eh? So, you can see here, we are surviving. We are getting tapped a little bit every now and then, and it is a little bit hard. You've got to position yourself. This is not one of my favorite builds because I like to play extremely aggressively. You guys have seen the way I play. But in saying that, it is still a very fun build, especially when you go out into things like Helltide, because you just annihilate absolutely everything. And this build really starts to take hold in those sorts of situations. Like I said, you just really need to watch yourself in these tier 100s and these tier 90s because you will die. You need to place yourself, you need to play a bit smarter, and you need to use everything at your disposal, like Petrify when you're surrounded by enemies, like so, which will help you kill everything. But you can see we do take a couple of hits. We can survive a drifting shade hit like we just did there. So the build does work. It will do everything that you want it to do. You're just going to have to slow down a little bit in Nightmare 100s and just be very, very careful where you're playing. And without further ado, let me pop out and I'll take you through the build, and we'll do a little bit more gameplay towards the end of it so you can see the rest of how it plays. So, a few things when it comes to a Petrify build, my werebear friends. Spirit can be a little bit of an issue, and they can be a little bit squishy if you don't have the right damage reduction. So we're using a lot of stuff that we had from our lightning build, and we've also lost Juggernaut off the chest. We've now had to put that on the helmet, which is another reason why the chest doesn't have a huge amount of DR you can see here. It's more based around overpower damage and physical damage. So the other thing you can do is you can actually go and put on a chest that has a lot of damage reduction like we had on our lightning build. That'll help you feel a little bit better. I just like to be in werebear form because there is something in our skill tree which helps us out being in werebear form all the time, which works out really, really well. So, very much like last season's build, we do build, or we can build a little bit around not having Banish Lords by using Envenom, and we can build around not having Starless Sky by using Retaliation and just having a bit of critical strike, vulnerable, damage to poison, and that sort of stuff available on here. So first things first, let's get into the Seneschal because this is a little bit different. This is got a couple of things in here which work out really, really well. Flash of Adrenaline, yes. Tactical Duration, yes. Normal sort of stuff. Fortify or Safeguard go really well in here. I use Fortify when I had the Retaliation up. Now that I don't have the Retaliation, and I've just realized this, I'm going to put Safeguard in here for the damage reduction because we don't need to build up that Fortify as much anymore. And then on the other side, you want Tempest, you want Arcing because you want it to hit a whole bundle of enemies, and you want Poison support so that you can proc Envenom. And now I've got Efficiency support, but if you find that you don't really like Efficiency support for those crit strike hits, you can also swap that over for Resource support. You can use one or the other. If you want resource will help you out with keeping your resources up during the gameplay. It does help a lot, especially if you've got it maxed out. Otherwise, efficiency for the critical strikes, because crits do help a lot. You don't want to be working on just overpower, because it's not like Season 2 where we could overpower a heap of times and we had like 6 or 7 different ways. It has been cut down quite a bit, so we have to work around that in different ways to be able to choose different ways to overpower. Now, let's get straight into some gear. I'm using an open helmet so that I can put juggernauts on there. You can see our armor is at 11,000. But if I quickly go and run out, I'm just going to go to something that's very, very close to me being able to run out. You will notice that when you turn into werebear form, because of Insatiable Fury, your armor will jump up very quickly and very substantially, so you will have a very, very high level of armor. I think mine pops up to 18,000, which helps a lot. You really do want to be armor capped on this, guys, and you want to be res capped, because if you're not, there you go, 18,000. If you're not, it does hurt. As you saw in the Nightmare Dungeons, if you sort of sit there, you will get pummeled. You're not immortal like you can be on a Necro or a Barb. So that's what you want to do with this. Insatiable Fury, great for overpower damage, great for the physical damage, great for the total armor, and it's nice to have a bit of damage reduction. I've almost got this at a max roll damage reduction. You can also see that I am not just using the rubies in here. I am actually using the, I think they're sapphires, the blue ones, for damage reduction while fortified. So as our fortify builds up, we actually get 15% damage reduction, which helps us out a lot. On our gloves, all stats intelligence. I've got the intelligence for a couple of Paragon board hits so that we can get there, but if you don't have that, you can also get attack speed, which is really good. Critical strike chance is really important here. Ranks to Pulverize, really important, and this is where you want to use Ursine Horror, because you want Pulverize to be an earth skill. We're building around earth stuff. Tybalt's Will is fantastic, and we're going to use this with Metamorphisis, with Earthen Bullwark, and with Trample to be able to get more of our spirit back. That helps a lot. Obviously, that's why we're using Tybalt's Will, so that is what it is. Now, for your boots, Metamorphosis, another way to get Unstoppable, which means another way to get more spirit. You'll be able to see this as well. So that's really, really good to use. Willpower, movement speed, damage reduction while injured, all of that works really, really well. On your weapon, you want a mace because you want the intrinsic overpower damage over the top. And then I have critical strike damage with earth skills, but I would really have loved that to be an overpower damage, so that it would be overpower with werebear and overpower damage, as well as the overpower damage on the top. It would just make it a lot higher. But as you can see, when we go down here, we are res capped. You'll see number 1. Number 2, we're at 2300% overpower damage. We don't really need that much more, but it would just be nice to get it. Willpower and all stats here again, so we can hit a couple of things on the Paragon board. Now, Banished Lord's Talisman. This is one of the ways that we guarantee our overpower. This is why we use it. If you don't have Banished Lord's Talisman, throw on something that's got, say, Earth Skills deal more critical strike damage, throw on something that has Envenom and movement speed, and then you can get a bit of damage reduction on your amulet as well, which will also help you feel a little bit more not so squishy, is probably the best way to put it. This is one really, really nice way to go about it. Banished Lords is just something that helps us overpower every time we spend 300, so this is why Banished Lords is up there, and we get some ranks to our core skills, which is really good too. The other one now that I play, or that I've got, that I move around on all my characters, is the Ring of Starless Skies, because spending primary resource reduces the cost of the skills, and then you also get a 40x multiplicative damage, and everything on here is great. Lucky Hit is great, core skills are great, critical strike's great, critical strike chance is great, all of it's great. If you don't have that, again, I've got another one. I was using this up until just recently. It's just a normal ring. Normal ring with retaliation. Retaliation will give you more damage while you fortify. You would then also, on your seneschal, change your safeguard to fortified, so that you can fortify a lot quicker. And what this will do is give you 30x more damage when you fortify, as well as some lucky hits, some damage to poison enemies, vulnerable damage, and critical strike chance. That's a very good thing to use on your ring as well. At the moment, I'm using Starless Skies because, well, it's Starless Skies. You just can't say no to that. It just helps a lot with the resource as well. The other one we use, and we use this for a number of reasons. 1, to heal, 2, for some free stuff, and 3, it helps with resource as well. Hunter's Zenith. The Heightened Senses passive will give you damage reduction. The Quick Shift passive will give you a lot of extra damage. The damage while shapeshifted is good, and the critical strike chance is good. And if you read the bottom here, we're going to be swapping through the 2 with Bloodhowl. This is why we use Bloodhowl. When you use a werewolf skill, your next werebear skill costs no resource. So you Blood Howl and then you Pulverize, and the first one's free. When you use a werebear skill, your next werewolf skill will heal you. And we're actually using the one that gives us spirit. So we get spirit and we heal when we use Blood Howl, which is why we're doing it this way. So that's why we use the Hunter Zenith. My apologies on the weapon. Obviously, you want the shockwave on your two-handed weapon. If I didn't go through that already, obviously you want the shockwave, max it out, get 200% if you can, because the 200% is phenomenal. So that's why we use Hunter Zenith. So that's the actual guide here when it comes to all of your gear and why we use the specific gear that we use. If you're doing overworld and you don't really need to have all of the extra overpower hits for the strength that you would need in a Nightmare 100, then by all means just use a standard choker and put some extra damage reduction on. You will feel a lot less squishy if you get something with a lot less stuff on there, like with a lot of damage reduction on there. Now, on your boons, top one's always the same. It's the wariness to take damage reduction from elites. Next one down, we are going for maximum life because that helps with your overpower damage. And we are going for crit strike damage because if you don't overpower, having the crits hit hard helps. Next one down, we are going to bolster to get the extra fortify. You can also use energize if your lucky hit is high enough. But with the amount of ways that we can get spirit back through trample, through earthen bulwark, through blood howl, and then through metamorphosis, that's 4. We don't really need the extra spirit, so we're using fortify to get the fortify damage. And then obviously on the last one, obsidian slam, so that every 20th kill will cause your next earth skill to overpower. Now when you're doing this in big groups and you're killing 5, 10, at a time, 2 groups, you hit an overpower, spend 300, you hit an overpower, you get a lot more overpower this way. It works really, really well. You can also use the vampiric power with the blood boils, which will then guarantee you another overpower. That's probably another really, really good thing to put on your ring. If you don't want to use the core skills deal more damage, is to actually put that on there. I don't think I actually have one here to show you, unfortunately, but I believe you overpower every 12 odd seconds, give or take, something along those lines, with the blood boil. So there it is, every 20 seconds. So it's just another way to guarantee another overpower is to put that on a ring and use that instead of Starless Skies. As good as Starless Skies is, having another guaranteed way to overpower is always a bonus. So that's another really good one to use. Next we go across to our skill tree, and I'll talk you down through these a little bit more than I normally would, just to explain why we're using them all. 2 points in here because this is going to just be a backup. You'll notice I've actually got that on my skill bar. It's a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup, just in case we need to build up a last little bit of spirit. Next we go down and we take 1 into Heart of the Wild. We don't need the extra maximum spirit, but it's, we need to get up here to Wild Impulses. This gives you 15x extra damage, which is really good. And then obviously you want to max out Pulverize. Now I use Primal Pulverize because when you're running high-end Nightmare dungeons, enemies hit with Pulverize deal less damage. It's basically like a 20% DR to have on this, and it's for 4 seconds, which is a really nice amount of time. 3 points into Predatory Instinct. You can put 2 in here if you prefer, and if your crit strike is high enough. You will notice on ours that our crit strike chance is at 46.4%, which is huge. So I'm actually going to take these 2 points out. Follow this if you want to follow it. Take the 2 points out of there. It's 1 point into Predatory Instinct, and then 3 into Iron Fur for the damage reduction, which is really, really good. 1 into Earthen Bulwark, take it all the way out to Preserving so that you can get your Fortify. 1 point into Blood Howl, take it all the way out into Innate so you get the Spirit. Now, Blood Howl works with your Hunter's Zenith, which is why we're using that. And Earthen Bulwark makes you unstoppable, which works with Tybalt's Will, which is why we use that. Next, we want to go down. Now, you'll see I'm res cap without using Ancestral Fortitude, which works out really good for us because we can use our points later on. And we're putting Vigilance here so that we gain 15% DR after we use a defensive skill. So once we use Blood Howl or Earthen Bulwark while we're swapping between the two, we get 15% damage reduction, which is really, really, really helpful. Next we go down. Now, last season we used Poison Creeper. This season we don't need to. So we're not touching anything here because our Seneschal will make everything poisoned for the Envenom. So we're not touching anything there. We're moving straight on. Down in the next one, we are going Crushing Earth to deal more damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized enemies. And then we are taking Stone Guard, which will fortify you for 50% of maximum life. When your Earth skills, when you have Fortify over 50% of your life, your Earth skills will deal more damage. Now, if you aren't fortifying quick enough, this is a really good spot to put those 2 points in, and I'm not using Fortify on the Seneschal anymore. So every time I crit strike, I want to fortify more. I'm going to throw 2 points into that. Now, mending, while in werebear form, any healing you get more. This is why it's really good for Hunter Zenith. When we use Blood Howl, we heal. This heals us even more. And then this is a guaranteed overpower every 16 seconds when you're in werebear form, which is why we're using Insatiable Fury. We put 1 point into trample. That's it, nothing else, because all we want to be able to do is become unstoppable. It's just another way to become unstoppable and for us to get more spirit back and to break CC and other things like that, because we're going to need to do that quite a bit. 1 point into neurotoxin, and then 3 points into envenom for the extra damage that you do there. We also try and get the points on the necklace so that you can get extra points here if you're not using Banished Lords, or if you don't have Banished Lords as yet. 1 point into Petrified, just so that when you do walk into a room and there's a lot of elites and there's people that you can't hit, and especially when there's people with barriers over them, because we hate those guys as a Pulverise build, you can just run in. You can actually use Trample to go in so that you are unstoppable, and then hit Petrify, which will just stun all nearby enemies. And while they're stunned, you'll be able to Pulverize, and you'll also be able to Metamorphosis your way out of there so that you can repulverize again and get the extra 40x multiplicative damage. It really helps with when there's a room full of elites. 3 points into Natural Disaster for the extra damage. 2 points into Circle of Life because I had the 2 points available and I just like to be able to heal that little bit more. It helps out with survivability. 3 points into Defiance so that our nature magic skills deal extra damage to elites. And you'll notice here that this is a nature magic skill, a shape-shifting skill, an earth skill, and a werebear skill. And it's an earth skill because of what we put on our gloves, which also helps with all of our earth passives here with getting fortify and stuff like that. Now, Hunter Zenith gives you a bit to this. I've put 2 points in here. Hunter Zenith has given me an extra 3. It gives us 42% increased damage when we shapeshift, and we do that a lot because when we use our basic skill, we're human. Blood Howl, we are a wolf. Earthen Bullwark, we're a human. Pulverize, we're a werebear. Normally, we're a werebear. We trample into a werebear. Bullwark, we turn back into a human. Pulverize into a werebear. Petrify, we're a human. We're shapeshifting all the time. Every time we do that, we do 42x more damage. And then this is from Hunter Zenith. It's the 2 extra points, which gives you damage reduction against elites for 5 seconds. Every time you shapeshift anyway, back or forth. If you want to put a couple extra points in here, you can do that too, but I don't feel it's necessary. And then finally, we use Ursine Strength, so you get 20% additional maximum life while you're in werebear form, so you get heaps. And then while you're healthy, you deal more damage and you deal more overpower damage. So that is our skill tree, and that is the reasons behind everything that is on that skill tree. Excuse me. Next, we go into our Paragon board. Now, I have copied this from my Season 2 guy and just made a few small changes. In the first one, we are putting Earth and Sky for bonus to the magic nodes. And the magic nodes give us resistances, obviously. The dexterity is great for critical strike, but we also get more resistance here and we get more damage there. So that's why we're doing Earth and Sky. We are taking both of these rare nodes on both sides for the extra maximum life and the armor. And this for the maximum life here, and that for the damage and maximum life there. We then go out of this board, we go into board number 2 with this Earthen Devastation. Put it up this way, go over to the left to get the extra crowd control damage and the critical strike, the crowd control over here. Go over here for the resistances and the less damage over time taken, and a couple of resistance things here. Take the legendary node for Earthen Devastation so that you get that little bonus for crowd control enemies. Come straight up through the middle here. Put Exploit in here, and then move over to the left. As you see, on the left, we are going to be putting Survival Instinct. So while in werebear form, you deal more damage, and the further apart you get, so the more that the enemies are dying and being injured, the more damage you do to them. We then sneak down here to pick up this for damage to healthy enemies. We then sneak down here for a bit of damage reduction. We take both of these here for damage reduction while in werebear form and damage while in werebear form, and we throw in Spirit. Now, a lot of people don't want to try and use Spirit. I've got a different way of thinking about this. You can't just rely on Overpower because all the rest of your hits will be too damn small. So put the Spirit in, and when you critically strike, you will critically strike harder. It will help you get rid of trash mobs, and it will help you kill things off while you're not overpowering. Next, we're going to Constricting Tendrils, and in Constricting Tendrils, we put in Fang and Claw. Again, bonus to all magic nodes, and you can see I've taken all the magic nodes here for all the extra damage, for the extra pluses to intelligence, for all the extra maximum life here, and for the extra dexterity. And then we sneak into the very last board, and that very last board is in a beast, so that when we shapeshift, the spirit costs are reduced, and we put in, obviously, the dominate glyph here for overpower. The overpower is massive, 388%, and as you saw, our overpower was up past 2000%. But our critical strike is also 400 and something percent, which is really, really good to have. It's a good backup to keep. And then for our final board, we sneak in the Ancestral Guidance for after spending Spirit. We do 30x more damage. That's a big jump in damage. And we also grab this here for some extra Spirit on kill. That for Spirit on kill. These two are max Spirit, but we can't really do anything about it because we need to get that to move across. But we get a little bit of extra Spirit on kill with that. So that is our Paragon board. Now, it's a really, really, really great build to use in Nightmare Dungeons. Again, you don't have to do hundreds. Once you get to a certain level, you're getting 925 gear everywhere. So you only really need to go into 90s maximum. Look, I'll grab 91 here. And we'll jump into that. You saw me do a 97 earlier. It can be done. You can push that to 100. It can be done. You just have to slow down your gameplay a little bit. Don't play aggressive like I do, because this is not an aggressive build. This is a play with your head build. And now that we've loaded in, we move across. We can see all the bad guys here, and we just start smashing things up. Now, Blood Howl, start smashing. That's a lot of poison coming out everywhere. Start smashing. And you will do okay. It's not a bad build, guys. It really isn't. It's not my favorite build, but I know a lot of you guys have been asking about it. Hence, we thought we'd just do the build for you so you can see. You can see the Seneschal Construct is absolutely poisoning everything. This helps proc Envenom. And we just try and keep our Earthen Bulwark up as much as we can while we're going into enemies, just so that we've got something there. I also try and make sure I use Metamorphisis when it comes up, so that we can actually get the 40x multiplicative damage. That really helps as well. But like you can see, endgame, it will do a lot of this stuff, no problems. Now, you can go into Uber bosses too. So you can do stuff like Juriel, like Rigor, like Lord Zir. It will take you a little longer though, because unlike the Barb or unlike the Necro, your crits aren't hitting constantly. And you are also not overpowering constantly like a Barb does, where you can guarantee your overpower a certain way. So you've really got to try and play smart to get those overpowers to work. You can see a whole heap of poisons showing up everywhere with these little flies that are coming up. And we don't want to be in those sorts of things. We don't want to be in anything that looks like it could kill us or explode on us. But if you play smart, there is enough survivability that you'll be able to get through absolutely anything. We petrify when there's a lot of big enemies. Probably should have been close when I was petrifying, but there we go. And you can see that I'm using absolutely everything to make sure my spirit stays up, which is I'm using trample when it's available. And then we hit, and as we run low on spirit, I use my Earthen Bulwark. And then as we run low on spirit, I can now use Blood Howl, and that'll also heal me. And you'll notice on the left there, we are fully fortified, even though I'm not using the Fortify on the Seneschal Construct, because we are doing everything we can to keep our Fortify up, which also means that our blue gems that we were using, they're working. We're getting the 15% DR. It's helping us feel not as squishy. So look, really, really fantastic build to play with. Like I said, again, not my favorite, but it is there. It's something that you can use. Where it does excel substantially is in open world, is in things like Helltide. You are clearing things off screen because of Shockwave going up so far out. And with Shockwave going out so far and things like that, you're killing stuff off screen real fast. And as you're killing stuff off screen, you can just go and pick up the cinders. Looks like we got rid of that, but there's a bug. That's an interesting bug, isn't it? Blood Howl, heal, get some spirit back, go around, get out of the way here. We've got elites, we petrify, and that gives us a chance to kill them. And that's basically all you got to do, guys. That's exactly how the build plays. This is exactly how you want to play it. It is a lot of fun. You've just got to play carefully. Just remember that. So, I've been Sabotage. This is DPS HQ. Thank you very much for watching, guys. The max roll will be in the comments below, like normal. Any comments, any questions, anything that you want to try and change, or any way that you think that you might want to try and work this around to make it better, or if you've got any ideas on something else you'd like me to try with the Pulverise build, Maybe we take the storm skill out and we put something else in for another way of getting unstoppable. Something, I don't know. Drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you like these videos, because it does help us a lot with getting up there in the YouTube algorithm, guys. And I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you watching. Have a good afternoon. We'll catch you in the next one.